All right, Arizona. First three things. Arizona, the frequency that people live on, big fan. Second, Raising Cane's open till 2 a.m. in Phoenix, big fan. Thirdly, Phoenix has a freaking Waffle House. 3 for 3, 5-star experience from a baseball standpoint. The three things that jumped out at me. RJ Austin is a first rounder. Vanderbilt has the next Vandy superstar just right there hitting the top of their lineup. He is a freak, man. Set the tone with a double on the first pitch of the season against Grand Canyon and a sellout crowd. Place was bumping. That was kind of leads me into my second thing. I don't. We speak about the Sun Belt often and how much their fans care, and rightfully so. East Carolina in that conversation. It's time to start putting some love on Grand Canyon too, man. What Coach Walls is doing out there, 5,400 people, 5,400 people at that game against Vanderbilt, MLB Network crowd, and you're going, oh, of course they get up for Vanderbilt. They do it every single home game. There was simultaneously a softball game going on at the exact same time, sold out as well. So the school spirit, the passion around athletics out there was really, really cool to be around. And then thirdly, bang, go damn Cuffs. Austin P with a massive win last night against Grand Canyon, who I bragged on. But man, it was a loaded slate from teams like Seton Hall to San Diego State. Obviously, man, the story of Nebraska on Saturday night. I'm not sure there's a fan base that traveled better across the country all weekend than Big Red Nation. Obviously, a really emotional win on Saturday night for them, but they're a true bona fide top 25 team. And we haven't even talked about maybe the mid-major darling that you guys have been on the ride with for the last 7 years, Ben, and that's UC Irvine. What Coach Orloff is building out west is nothing short of spectacular, and it's not – they don't want the praise yet. Like, they expect to go out and beat the likes of Vanderbilt and Nebraska. Like, they do this. Hey, we do this. They let a game get away from – they felt like they should have beat Vanderbilt yesterday at noon Western time. But – what he has, Ben, we joked about it. I go into it East Coast bias. So, Coach, educate me. Let's go. I need that West Coast exposure. And I think I went into it with this idea of it's going to be a lot of moving base runners. It's going to be a lot of bunting, first and thirds. They're going to play clean defense. Guys, they have a legit high school football team. Like, they look like, to me, a 7A Texas high school football team. It's the best way I can describe it. They have a bunch of stud former all-region Mike linebackers and tight ends playing freaking baseball out west. They are nasty. So physical. Chase Call in the outfield for them. Big league pedigree. So much of the conversation is going to be about Anthony Martinez this year. But it should probably be about the guy that's going to protect him in the heart of that lineup. So I know I rambled, and that's not much of a Spark Notes, but there's so many teams to brag on that did some really impressive stuff in opening weekend.
100%. I'm glad you touched on RJ Austin from Vanderbilt. Talk about a guy that has always been a good college player, but this felt like the first time that he stepped into that, oh my God, this guy could be a 10-year major leaguer. He's got a little bit of Mookie Betts in him where he's versatile, can play anywhere on the field. Like last year, he was playing first base. But to have him leading off games, taking the first pitch 430 feet to dead center for a home run, I mean, it's special to watch him develop and become somebody that a lot of people viewed as like a good college player that would play in the minors and maybe get a shot in pro ball to, oh, this guy could be an all-star. Like he's that talented. So, and then on top of that, UC Irvine, got to watch them play a lot on TV. That's a team that could make it to Omaha. And it wouldn't be a Cinderella story at all. Like they would fit right in. You said it best. They look like a high school football team, which is funny because that might sound like an insult, but it's not. You're talking about just big buff, former Mike linebackers and tight ends. Like that's what they look like. They hit for power. Again, it's not the stereotypical West Coast style baseball, and they're going to be just fine. Dimitri, any thoughts you want to add there to Jack's West Coast trip before we move on?
I just wanted to add on UC Irvine. I mean, we could be having a totally different conversation if they just don't give up a grand slam to Riley Nelson and Vanderbilt. I think that was his first career D1 home run, so big time moment for him to get his feet wet really quickly. But if Irvine wins that game, we're having a totally different conversation right now about how they could easily be the number one team, mid-major team in the country, right there with Dallas Stats. But the only other thing I was going to say is Jack.
Oh, no, your internet cut out again.
Yeah.
Dimitri,
Lost you for a second.
Try to hop back in. Try to fix your internet, because we missed like the very last bit of what you were going to say. And while you're hopping out, I want to talk about a team that you got to see play that passed the eyeball test to a T, like a 10 out of 10 on the eyeball test, and that's Arizona State. Let's talk about what Coach Bloomquist is doing at Arizona State. That team could win a national championship. I know they didn't pitch the ball that well. They ended up sweeping Ohio State, and all of them were high-scoring games. But when you talk about star power and freak athletes and a team that has a desire to win baseball games, Arizona State passes the eyeball test for me. Like, that is a team that I think could make it to Omaha and host a regional. So, I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there. Arizona State passed the eyeball test.
Yeah, I got to go run out there and check out BP and getting to talk with Ohio State and Coach Hare. Obviously, having the opportunity to broadcast their games next week. I didn't really know what to expect from Arizona State. Like, you just didn't really know. Those games on Friday and Saturday were so back and forth and such a roller coaster. Everything they do is it's very much so reminding me of Vanderbilt, like where everything was very calculated, meticulous in warm-ups, roll right into the first pitch. To your point, right? National championship team, sure, I'm with you. I'll pump the brakes and just say, hey, I think that this is a team where if the Big 12 is as wide open as we kind of think it is this year, this opening weekend, they absolutely let you know that they're going to be a contender.
Yeah. And I think Brandon Compton should be high up on a lot of people's Golden Spikes watch list. He's somebody that's a walking 115-mile-an-hour exit velo. Everything he hit was squared up. He looks the part, had the walk-off on Saturday, a few home runs on the weekend, and he's the reigning Pac-12 freshman of the year. So he's got the pedigree to go with it.
Guys, you know what I love the most is we get to see Arizona State, we get to see UCLA, we get to see Arizona all on ESPN Plus now. No more. The whole country is going to actually become really familiar because it's going to be finally easy to watch these games. Not everyone's going to go buy a Pac-12 network subscription. So now you've got all these teams on ESPN Plus. You're gonna see the tone, the tune, the attitude towards some of these teams going to really flip 180 degrees because now they can watch Arizona State. The broadcast, big league, immaculate broadcast, beautiful field. They're going to understand like how good these teams are going to be. I think Arizona State's a top 25 team that I don't think I saw a single top 25 with them in it this morning. Ohio State, I thought, yeah, they got swept, but I thought that was a completely different looking team than the Ohio State I'm used to seeing in the past. They couldn't pitch it late in the game, but they hit, they competed. I think there were like 12, 13 lead changes all weekend. They were back and forth. It could have easily been an Ohio State series win. Got out of control on Sunday, but I'm really impressed with both teams. I think Arizona State, Isaiah Jackson, it's going to probably be a first rounder, top 3 round pick for sure. Brandon Compton right there next to him in the outfield. They had Velo in the bullpen. I really like Arizona State.
Yeah, that felt like one of the weekend series that we look back on in May or June, and we're like, wow, both of those teams were good all year long, and we didn't understand what we were witnessing at the time. So, anyways, we'll move on from that.
Hey, one more thing. I was just gonna say, because Ben or Jack said he met Hare. Hey, he's gonna be the dude for that program. Just give him some time to learn his pitching staff and who's going to come in what situations. I promise you, Ohio State will be at the top upper tier half of the Big Ten when it's all said and done. That team has what it takes. Michigan and Ohio State, Penn State are sleepers that nobody's talking about. They can win the Big Ten.
Before we move on to in my kind of mindless rambling, I get so excited about so many different storylines over the weekend from a guy like John Bay, kind of proving he showed up on the big stage for Austin Peay. But I do want to brag more on the Big Ten. Like, I do think that's the conference that everyone's like really excited to see if they can make that next step and get a team into Omaha this year. Dude, Nebraska and what Coach Bolt is building. Like, I talked about Big Red Nation showing up in waves, and like I guess they have a huge alumni base in the Scottsdale area. Dude, their grit was not more personified than when Tucker Timmerman takes a 104-mile-per-hour comebacker to the face. Timmerman, a nasty bullpen arm for those guys, gets absolutely crushed. He's kind of laying there. It's a little bit of a scary moment. He gets up. He's fist pumping to the crowd. They've got the ice pack over his eye. And I saw it after the game, and I was going to interview him, and I talked to him afterwards. Guys, this was like it looked like a Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed. His whole eye was split to the point where I was like, hey, I don't feel comfortable putting this out to the public because, God forbid, you just don't know, right? And this kid is fired up. They just get this huge win over a Vanderbilt team that they know is going to have RPI implications later in the year. But it's not about that. It's about going to legit war with their brothers. And obviously, it's now gone viral over social media, and the kid's obviously doing a lot better. He had surgery. But Tucker Timmerman taking that shot to the head, getting up, firing the boys up. To me, that was a statement moment in the year, and it's kind of proved what Coach Bolt has built with the Cornhuskers. So I didn't want to move on quite yet without bragging on them because they're getting top 25 votes, and they absolutely should because they had that kind of a weekend.
Yeah, and Swanson having 6 RBIs on Saturday against Vanderbilt, huge. A guy that stepped up and won them the game. So big time for them.
Crazy.
Nebraska will be a fun team to watch in the Big Ten.